Hello and welcome to Odoo Live. My name is Noel, Community Manager here at Odoo San Francisco, and thank you once again for joining us. Today I'm joined by Brandon, our Senior Account Executive, to talk about inventory, sales, and purchasing today. We're going to do things a little bit differently than what we normally do. Instead of having an overall general walkthrough regarding warehouse management, we will instead be starting a database from scratch and demonstrating how easy it is to move from sales, purchasing, and more. So with all that being said, thank you for joining us, Brandon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Like Noel said, there are a lot of we have lots of webinars on inventory management. My colleague Brett did a very in-depth one, which we'll have posted at the bottom, of how intricate you can get with our inventory management. But what I felt is most helpful, I've been here for a while and I've done quite a bit of demos, and just showing the inventory. We've typically found that there's more to it than that, because yes, you can just manage your inventory, but where Odoo really shines is the ability to have everything interconnected. There's lots of just free inventory software management systems out there. So for what we're doing today is actually something a little different. We're going to do something I typically do on a lot of my demos, where we're going to just build things from scratch. So I created a brand new database with pretty much zero information in. I've only changed a few settings. And what we'll do is show how easy it is to just start from scratch and go from the beginning of, we'll skip the CRM part, even though that is a pretty big thing. We'll just start, somebody calls you on the phone and you're selling your treadmill, or you're selling whatever it is, and how easy it would be to set it up in Odoo and then go from there. So I've put together.
Before we get started, please, if you have any questions regarding the topic of today, please put them in the chat, and we should be able to answer them at the end during our question and answer session. Additionally, if you have other questions, hopefully we can help you. You can always send us an email. We are at webinars@odoo.com. Or if you would like to get in touch with Brandon directly, Brandon, what is your email address?
It's bjo@odoo.com.
All right. I think that with that being said, go ahead and please take it away.
So I personally don't care for PowerPoints very much. I've found them to just drone on and on. So very simple PowerPoint today. We're going to do setup, sales, and then do the workflow. So we'll start with sales, go to inventory, purchasing, sales, and then follow up with invoicing. And then from there, any other follow-up that we want to do. I'll mention a few of the features in each of these, and then how that relates overall to the system. So let's get started. Away. So I just created a database. There's nothing in it right now. All I've done is turned on a few settings. So we have contacts, calendar, CRM, sales, purchasing, inventory, invoicing. Just to start with, we have over 40 apps. So there's a lot more we can do with this, but I'm just starting off simple. Now, typically, a lot of companies, they have CRMs, where Odoo really shines with B2B business. We also shine with B2C, but where I've found the most success is B2B businesses. And typically you manage everything out of a CRM, and then from there you move into sales, and then however you want to do it. Today we'll just start from sales. I don't have any information except for one. I've created a one contact called 24-Hour Fitness, and they're the person who we're going to sell today, and we're going to sell them treadmills. So something relatively simple. As I said, just a brand new database. So this is entirely from scratch. All it takes to create a quotation within Odoo, which is different than a lot of other sales systems out there, is all you need to do is fill out the black bar. Once the black bar is filled out, it's considered a quote and can be saved within Odoo. So for example, we have our customer, 24-Hour Fitness, and save. That's all you need to do to create a quote within the system. From here, we could send an email directly to the client. We could print it out, basically print it as a PDF, or we could even skip that. If we just had a verbal conversation with them, we can confirm it and then start the kickoff of sending the products directly to our customer. Now, typically before we would do all that, we'd want to actually sell them a product. So I'm going to show you how easy it is, especially if you don't have a set product list, how easy it is to create a product. Or if you do have a set product list, we can actually show, I won't actually do the importing, but it's really easy. You just, you would have an Excel file and you would just upload it in. Now, for adding a product, all it takes to create a product is just to click the create and edit. You can actually also type something in. In our case today, we're going to sell a treadmill. And in that treadmill, we can set up a few different things. One of the really key things I like to point out in Odoo is how right now what we're looking at is we're actually looking at the inventory application, even though it says sales up top. Because Odoo is so interconnected, we're actually building an item in inventory, and then we're going to be able to access it through the sales, but we could also access it directly through inventory. And so we can choose the product type: consumable, service, storable product. Storable product allows us to keep track of how many we have on hand. Consumable basically says we have an unlimited amount. So consumables are typically thought of as like toilet paper or tissues or anything where you don't, or like a box of nails that, you have thousands and thousands of them. You don't care how many you actually have on hand. Storable product allows you to keep track of how many you have on hand. And then service, of course, allows us to sell an actual service, not a physical good, which we could track in a project management app, for example, which is pretty useful as well. And so we're going to set our treadmill as a storable product. We can also set our sales price right here. Let's say it's $1,500. Make sure my numlock is turned on. So we have our sales price is $1,500. We can also associate a cost to it, let's say $500. And then we have a few different sections we can go through. We can go through sales. Basically, how do we do our invoicing policy? Do we want to do it through ordered quantities or delivered quantities? A re-invoice policy, as well as purchasing. Now, this is where Odoo really comes together. We're going to have our treadmill set up to automatically be purchased from a vendor and then stored in our inventory momentarily before we ship it out to a sale to 24-hour fitness. So from here, we can actually add a vendor on the fly as well. In this case, we're going to create a vendor called Treadmills Are Us. So we just created a vendor. From here, we can actually do more to that vendor. We can add an address book. We can actually go pretty deep here. We can go straight into Treadmills Are Us, consider it a company, set up the country, US, I guess. And if we want to email them or anything in particular, treadmillarus.com. We can then send an email out directly through Odoo. So once we click save there, we've created a vendor. This is now updated within Odoo, which we can then access later on if we want to create another vendor or anything else. We can set up our minimum quantity, how many we purchase, as well as our price, what we purchase them from. So we could say we purchase them from Treadmills Are Us for $500. Now, what's really nifty here is, as well as this, we can have multiple vendors that we purchase from, and each time we can have a different price that we purchase them from as well. We also have, specifically for a lot of companies, vendors call things different names, so we could add a product name or a product code as well as a specific delivery time, how long we expect it to take to get to us. So from here, when we click save, that actually updated right here. So now we see that we have the price set as $500. And if we had a specific amount of time that we purchase it from the vendor, we could do that as well. Finally, we also have our inventory right here. And this is what we have set up right now in our routes. We can set up a bunch of different routes. If I had manufacturing enabled, we would actually be able to do we would be able to manufacture the treadmill in-house if we wanted to. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to purchase any time that we sell a treadmill, we won't typically have too many on hand. We're going to have to purchase it from Treadmills R Us. So we set the route as make to order, and that tells Odoo that even if we have inventory on hand, we are going to purchase it from Treadmills on R Us or whoever we want. Now, one of the other things we can do, which is pretty cool, is we also have tracking and traceability, which basically allows us to set up how we track our inventory. And this is really key in warehouse management. So in warehouse management, what we can do is we can track by lots or a unique serial number. If we do lots, basically means we can have multiple items of the treadmill, but it would have different serial numbers. If we do serial numbers, not quite product codes, whatever you want to call it. If we do a unique serial number, we can only have one of that particular item. So if we had treadmill serial number 0001, there can be no other 0001s in the Odoo database. If we have it by lots, you can have a treadmill 0001 and you could have 5 treadmill 001s. So lots and unique serial numbers are pretty useful, as well as logistics. That's great for specifically keeping track of when you're purchasing, or if you have any of the other applications attached to it, like FedEx, UPS, that kind of a thing. So for now, let's do it. We'll add lots onto here. So we're going to purchase a treadmill, and we're going to track by lots as well. And Odoo, when we receive a treadmill when we purchase it, we're actually going to put in that lot number. Basically, you receive the treadmill, you see the serial number, and you would write it into Odoo. So we're going to save right there. And now, as you see, once we saved it, it automatically updated. It's 1,500. Our cost is 500. And even though we're in sales, we did all of that. Everything that we set up was a mixture between sales, purchasing, and inventory. And that really goes to show how connected Odoo is. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to jump into the inventory so we can show you the treadmill itself. So we're going to jump out of sales right now. And I'm going to jump into inventory, and we're going to see we have one product. And the product is the treadmill that we just created. Now we're going to see the exact same screen that we just saw right here. And what's really cool about Odoo is you can actually update everything in that sales module. We could actually update it in inventory as well. We could add an image for it for a specific treadmill. We can keep track of our lots and serial numbers right there, as well as how many units have been purchased. So all of this is can be fully seen within Odoo. And if we change anything, it won't affect anything that we have out. So everything in Odoo, nothing in Odoo is retroactive. So if we go back and we change our treadmill to treadmill 1 and we change this product information, we can, it will not change if we have one already on the sales order. Finally, we have our units of measure. We can switch it if you're not just selling treadmills, if you're selling like say gallons of items or pounds of items, you can set that up as well. So what we have first is we have our sales order 2. Odoo's already calculated that there's taxes that we've applied 15%, as well as what our margin is, which is 1,000, because our cost is 500. From here, some of the unique features of Odoo is we have a built-in Slack, so we can send a message directly to 24-Hour Fitness, basically saying, do you have any questions before we send you the quote? Like, do you? And this is actually sent through email. We can actually pop up an email template right here, and we can actually create a template to send to 24-Hour Fitness. And anything we send here, we can attach files. It's basically an email sent directly through Odoo. This email as well will actually, if they respond to us, we'll be able to see their response as well up here. which is really useful for keeping track of your sales as they happen. Next, we have login a note. This allows us to mention people in our company if we want to. We can say specific people. I don't think. So what I have set up already is I added a few users into Odoo. So here we have Fred. We could actually message Fred just like we can do in Slack and have him mentioned on this. Have you talked with? So we can have a message sent directly to Fred. If Fred is our sales manager, or if we ourselves are sales managers, we can track any of the messages in real time that we've sent to him, as well as scheduling an activity. We can set our activity as emails, calls, meetings, and we can add other activities as well. So if we want to schedule a call as we're dealing with sales order 2, we can do that as well. And Odoo can automatically keep track of how long each of these take. From here, we're actually going to send this quote to 24-hour fitness, which will trigger a few things. It's going to trigger one, here's our sales order 2. It's going to trigger a sales order directly attached. This is fully customizable. We can add our logo, we can add their logo, we can change the format, the way things are on the actual page, as well as what our total, as well as how it's fully laid out. Which ones? Oh, there we go. And let's just say we send it right here. Now, this email is actually sent directly through Odoo, so that email will appear right here, and you have the full traceability of that as well. If they respond, we'll see their response, but let's just confirm it. That's actually going to trigger our next part of our inventory. What Odoo's trying to do right now is it's trying to send a delivery to 24-hour fitness. So it's gotten it ready to go. The problem is we don't have any reserved. And the reason why is I've set it as make to order, so we have to purchase our treadmill first. So by doing this, we've actually already triggered a purchase order within Odoo. Now, the purchase order isn't complete yet. It's a request for quotation. So here's our purchase order. Here's what we expect to pay Treadmills R Us, and it's all set up for you. So the way this is correspondent with any of your goods within inventory, if you have to purchase them before selling them, you can have Odoo automatically create those requests for quotations. And if you have multiple items that are purchased from the same vendor, you can track those as well. And they would be included on the same line, assuming that the lead time is accurate. You want to make sure that, Odoo will automatically keep track for you whatever your lead time is. So from here, here's our request for quotation. We're sending this to Treadmills R Us. We are going to, there's a few ways to do it. We can do it the exact same way as the sales order, send it by email first to Treadmills R Us. Here's our quotation. Here's the PDF as well, which we could view. We're just going to send it right here. It automatically sends to the email that we have set up for Treadmills R Us. We could view the PDF right here. It's saved onto the document, and any other files that we want to add on, we can do as well. Now, once we receive it, we're actually going to have to put in a lot number on it, but we'll get to that once we've confirmed that Treadmills R Us are willing to receive. So we can log a note right here, and actually not even log a note. We could say we had a call with them. They agreed to send a treadmill, and mark this as done. And now this call is logged, and from here we can actually officially confirm the order. Now, from here, even though it says we're in purchasing, we're going to jump into inventory when we click receipt. Receipt actually takes us into the inventory. As you can see, this is warehouse in 001. And what we're doing is we're receiving a treadmill. Now, we don't have to be in purchasing to do that. Typically, with most of the customers I work with, they have somebody in sales, somebody in purchasing, somebody in inventory, etc. So your inventory guy would jump in, see that there's a receipt to process. They'd click right here, one to process, and see the exact same screen that we just saw. It just now says inventory up at the top. So you can have that control whether you want to have everything run by one person or have multiple people running it as well. Now, before we validate it, we have to receive the treadmill. So we're expecting to receive one. Now, once we get it into our inventory, the next step we have to do is we have to give it a lot serial number. The reason why is we have treadmills set up as something that needs a serial number. So our lot serial number is X123, and from here we can confirm it. As you can see, it turned green, basically saying that we're ready to go. We're going to confirm this, and now you're going to see that we have one done. Now, the treadmill isn't actually in our inventory yet. The only way the treadmill gets in the inventory is by validating it. If we leave it like this, Odoo will not add that treadmill to the inventory. And actually what's really cool is we can jump into the master data right now and look at our treadmill. And on hand, we have 0 units and we have 0 forecasted. However, the reason for this is because we haven't clicked validate. Once we click validate, we are going to show that we have 1 unit on hand. But the reason 0 are forecasted is because we're also planning to sell that particular, we are selling that individual item. So we're going to go back to our treadmill. We're going to process our delivery right here. We're going to validate it, and now our updated master data will show that we have 1 treadmill brought in. We also can see our treadmill, our traceability report that we've brought it into our warehouse. And we can actually see that under our master data right here, we have on hand 1 unit, still forecasted 0. And in here, we can see our lot serial number. So the way to think about this is we could scale this up quite heavily to something a lot more sophisticated and have hundreds of thousands of units that we're all tracking, and each person, and the way we would know it is we can track our specific lot serial numbers, set up filters, stock, positive stock, location, products, etc. So now that we've received our treadmill and we've purchased, we brought it into our warehouse, we can see that we have 0 to process. Now there's 2 ways we can go to deliver it. The first is we can click right here and we can jump directly to the delivery order, see where our destination location is, 24-hour fitness, make sure it's sent directly to their warehouse, any notes, any thing we want to include. We can include a delivery slip, picking operations in case we're sending, 15, 20, 60 items, whatever. And this would be how your team knows where to go. We can also include a barcode on it so we can scan this and do it faster if we want to. So we can see the treadmill, we've already reserved it. Odoo's automatically looked into it, and because we validated it, Odoo knows that we're delivering this X123 treadmill. Now we don't have to do it through warehouse out. We could also do it through sales. We can jump into our sales right here and jump directly to delivery and be in the exact same screen. It's entirely how you guys want to have it set up. But once we click validate, Odoo's going to automatically process what you validate. So it's going to say you've not recorded done quantities. Clicking on apply will process all the reserved. So if you want to go in and make it specific, you can actually jump into here, confirm it, and click 1. It's entirely up to you what you want to do there. You can do it however you want. Once again, that's not enough. You have to click validate to send the item out. But once you've sent the item, you can actually see the traceability report of the treadmill moving from stock to customers, and we can see that it moved from vendors to stock. So this gives us a clear idea of where our current item is if we ever have to go find it. Now, what I just did was something called following the breadcrumbs. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've never actually clicked the back button here. The reason why is, once again, Odoo's integrated, so if I want to go to a different app, I can always click here. But if I want to get back to where I've started, I can actually just click back into each of these and move through Odoo very seamlessly. So we're back on sales order 2. We had our treadmill, we ordered one, we've delivered one, now we have to invoice for one. Since we finished the delivery, now we have to invoice 24-hour fitness. So from here we can actually create the invoice, and we can do a few different things. We can do invoiceable lines with down payments, percentage of the total that they owe, as well as a down payment fixed amount. All of those work. If you choose either of these, you'll have to create another invoice afterwards that needs to also be validated. What I'm going to do now is we're going to just create and view that invoice. And now what you see is we have an invoice number 01. It's in draft right now. What draft means is that it can still be edited, we can change it, we can add a line, add a section, add a note, whatever. We can totally change this invoice however we want if new information comes up. Assuming no new information comes up, what would be next is our accountant or ourselves, depending on who we have set up, to validate it. So we can go into invoicing right here, and we can see that we have this invoice document set up to be validated by our accountant, or we ourselves can do it once again through the sales and just click in and get to the invoice. It's it's up to the user rules that you have set up, who you want to be able to access what. However, once it's validated, it's considered an open invoice and no longer able to be edited. You cannot edit this particular thing. The reason why is apparently it has to do with government type rules. So I don't know too much about that, but what I do know is once it's an open invoice, you cannot change it, delete it, get rid of it in any way, at least within Odoo. Now the next part is we can send this invoice directly to them. The same way that we send our sales orders and everything else. Here's your invoice. Odoo does have an ability to send it by post if we want to, but typically we do print and email. Here's your invoice from our company name. Please remit payment. We can choose different templates. Customize it all you want. If you want to include your name, you could just say Best Brandon, or you can have that part of the use template. So I'm going to click send and print. This invoice is now being sent directly to the 24-hour fitness email that we have set up. And from here, we can actually view the invoice, or before that, we could view the invoice as well. Finally, we register the payment, receive the money from them, bank, cash, credit card, whatever. Validate it. And now you've done a full sales flow. So we started with sales, moved over into inventory, then moved back into purchasing, moved to sales, inventory, and then back to sales, and then invoicing. Now, specifically within inventory, there's quite a few things we can do here. We can make this a lot more complicated. I try to keep it relatively simple in most of my demos because there's lots and lots of stuff you can do within Odoo. For example, under our configuration, I can set up multiple warehouses. I can set up barcode scanners. I can set up batch pickings. I can set up my shipping connectors, variants and options, units of measure, serial numbers, expiration dates. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of things you can do within the inventory management. But what really makes Odoo shine is having everything connected together. So, yeah.
Awesome. Great, thank you, Brandon. I hope you're ready to try and answer a few questions here
Sure.
from our audience. Let's see. The first one that we have from Matthew Schacht. Is there a way to set up automatic inventory reports?
Technically, you can set those up through automated server actions. You can actually also set up inventory reports to be sent consistently as well. Under here, we have our inventory report. And if we go into it a little bit, if we go into the code a little bit more, we can actually set it up to automatically send these every 24 hours or every 48 hours. But you can choose specific inventories, current inventories, that kind of a thing. The way I could show this is, let me pull up another demo database. I have a few of them. Give me a second. Just one moment. Okay. So this is another demo database that I use. It has a few more apps downloaded into it. As I said, keep the first one simple, but if we need to go complicated, we can. Now, specifically for your inventory, we can go into the reporting and we can look at our inventory report. We can pull out a current inventory or a specific date. You click retrieve the quantities and you can see everything that's on hand. Now, if we want this to automatically be set up, one of the things we have to do is we have to set up an automated server action for it, which you go into debug mode, you go into server actions. There's a little bit of code involved, but and I don't know the code off the top of my head, but you can have this set up to be sent every 24 hours. I think there's also a way to do it within settings, but I don't want to say for certain. I have to look at that real quick. Yeah, I think you can do it within the options as well. Simple answer is yes. The more complicated answer is doing it specifically. I can't show you off the top of my head how you would do it, but you can do it.
Gotcha. Let's see. We had a question from Jobs to Blakey, perhaps. Are lots in serial numbers new?
Sort of. They're kind of.
Do you know what version they appeared?
I would say version 10 or 11 is when they actually appeared. They came. So there was the original manufacturing app in Community, and that manufacturing app didn't have a lot of things. And when they added, so this is a more complex database, but when they added some more, from what I understand, when they added more stuff into manufacturing, that's when they added lots and serial numbers, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But they are relatively new. Within the past 2 or 3 versions.
Great. We did get, let's see, a question here. This might be more complicated than I think might allow, but Marai Alau Bathani asked, is there a way to use a multi-unit of measure in the POS app?
Our point of sale app is a little less connected to everything else. So in our point of sale app, and we are upgrading it in version 13, I don't know all the details, but within point of sale, what you see is close to what you get. So you can choose the items, and as long as you have the unit set up in the item, you can absolutely, like if this was in gallons or pounds or whatever, that would show up in here. But if you have it set as units or something like that, that's what's going to show up. Is that the question, or did I misunderstand?
Hopefully we'll get a
follow-up.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, this is units, but it could be in pounds, inches, miles, whatever.
Great. This might be a question that is perhaps, again, more complex, or I think we might have webinars related to it. But let's see, Aditi Prabhu asked, could you please walk us through the warehouse configuration steps to keep in mind, especially if multiple companies, subsidiaries, and warehouses are involved?
I won't walk you through that because it's quite a bit, but I can show you a little bit about it. So within the Odoo settings, of course, there is the ability to do multiple warehouse management. And it comes into a few different things. The first is there's multiple companies. The first is multiple warehouses. And then if you want to get even more complicated, you do multiple companies. And then if you want to get even more complicated, you do multiple currencies. Now, each of these has its own layer of complexity. Within the multiple warehouses, for example, I believe this is already set up. So as you can see, you have receipts and delivery orders here, as well as receipts and delivery orders. We have the My Company Chicago is one warehouse. As you can see, the red is differentiated from the white. And then we also have our Chicago warehouse, which is orange, as well as we have our manufacturing as well. So in Odoo right now, in this demo database, we have 3 different warehouses. We have Demo Company, My Company Chicago, and then the Chicago warehouse. And then in each of these, you have what the short name is, and you can set up specific routes of how you do put away strategies for each of those. Now within the multi-company, which is one step further, that's actually within our users and companies. And you can set up each of these companies. So within each company, you can have a warehouse, or you can have multiple warehouses between the companies, as well as multiple whatever it's called, multiple warehouses within the same company. So it can get pretty complicated. Within the general settings, I can also set up within here. I have to make sure I have it enabled. 1 second. So right here, you see the multi-companies. Even though I have multiple companies in Odoo, the only way to access them is I have to, remember this is a demo database, I have to click this multiple companies. And then this allows me to manage them as well as the intercompany flows. This allows you to have documents sent between each of the companies. So for example, if I have my demo company in California and then I have my Chicago company, each of those, if we want to have different chart of accounts for them, they would be considered 2 separate companies. And then you'd have to make sure that you save here. And then you'd be able to move as long as you have admin access between the 2 companies. And then you'd be able to select what your users can and can't view, as well as whether you want to have your companies sell to each other. It can get very complicated, and that's why when we get to that level, we typically recommend that you work with one of our implementation specialists. Biggest reason why is because they're going to understand your system. You're going to understand your system, and they'll be able to give you recommendations that will fit your needs much better than I can.
Gotcha. Let's see, we did have a follow-up from the same individual. What is the difference between warehouses and locations in Odoo, and how are they related? What is the best way to configure a reseller location and a fulfillment location?
So that would probably be set in multi-routes, which once again is more complicated.
Right, yeah.
But within that, you can have, you have to set up something called multi-step put away, I believe is what it's called, Multistep Routes. And it is right. So we have to set up multiple warehouses. So the big thing here is there's two things. One, you have to make sure that you go into the settings. So right here, you can technically have these items, but you won't be able to see the buttons to actually connect to them until you have it set up in inventory. Once you have it set up in inventory, then you can actually set up locations, and so you'll need all 3 of these set up. Once you've clicked saved, this is where we would go into and actually set all of that up. As I said, I don't actually set up anything. That's not my position. But what I can show you is where you go to get started on that. And I think we do have some videos out there already.
Yeah.
But within the storage locations, you can actually look at each of these locations. So each of these are locations within Odoo. So as you can see, we have specific companies and we have specific location types as well. We can actually see all of our locations if we really want to, but that gets it a little bit more complicated. We're going to go back just to see our internal locations, and that's probably what you would do. The question was internal locations versus the exporting, correct?
It was best way to configure reseller location, fulfillment location, difference between warehouses and locations in Odoo, and how are they related?
So warehouses allow you to have locations within those warehouses. So each of these has a specific location type, but as you can see, if we're looking right here, this is warehouse, and then we have a location called input, and then we have another location called order processing. And then here we have warehouse, input, order processing, dispatch zone gate A, gate B. So each of these are locations within a specific warehouse, and this warehouse in particular is our basic warehouse called warehouse, WH. We can actually click into here and see, if we go into warehouse input and then warehouse, this is our basic warehouse and it's for demo company. If we want to, we could have localization, we could have barcodes. We can actually see all of our current stock within this location as well. But we can go down, if we go back into our locations and we're just looking at shelf 2, for example, we can see our current stock there as well. So, one second. So what this allows us to do is have a full, we can see a full breakdown of each of our products. And in your case, what I would recommend is you have 2 different warehouses. You have your, your shipping and receiving, and you have your, the other one that it was called, the resellers. And so each of these warehouses, you can set up the multi-step routes, and that's where it's right here. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. But as you can see here, we have different types of routes we can create. We have receive in one, these are already created, by the way, receive in one step, receive, deliver, etc. But you can create a route, call it whatever you want. Let's say it's create a product, and then you can set up your rules to what you want to have happen. Now, this is typically where I'd recommend you work with an implementation. I'm going to say that a lot because you want to make sure it's done right. Absolutely, you could do this by yourself, and I think we do have a few videos on specifically what you're asking, but doing it right is better than trying to, do it wrong. Right. There's another word I'd use, but we're on the air, so
sure, yeah.
We want to make sure it's done properly and that it best fits your particular needs.
Let's see. Ben Neji asked, how can you set 2 units of measurement for the same product?
So there's different. So the 2 different ways is buying and selling. So you can buy it in a certain amount of units and sell it in another units, or you can convert that product into another product as well through manufacturing. So one way you can do it is if we go into inventory, I think I have it set up. Do I have units of measure? I don't. Okay. So with units of measure enabled, I can have a unit of measure that I sell with and a unit of measure that I buy with. Or if I want to have the same product but different units of measure, what I can do is I can convert that product into another product as well. For example, with manufacturing, I could turn, let me just pull in my list of products. If I wanted to convert my acoustic block screens to a different type of unit, as you can see, we have our purchase unit and our unit of measure. But if I wanted to sell it in, say, dozens, for example, if we wanted that to be the case, I could have a simple manufacturing process to convert acoustic block screens from units into dozens. Another thing we could do is we could put it in a pack. There's lots of different ways to manage the units of measure. Yeah.
Gotcha. Then I think finally, can one add multi-barcodes in each unit of measurement? Unit of measure? Not sure.
Multi-barcodes in a unit of measure. I know you can set barcodes specifically for the item, and you can actually set barcodes specifically for variants of the item. But barcodes for a unit of measure, I don't believe you can set barcodes for a unit of measure. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Never heard that question.
Yeah.
We can look into it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or if you can send in how you would use that, we can definitely look into that for you.
Yeah, precisely. Well, very good. I think we're probably nearing the end of our time here, so I want to thank Brandon for the presentation that he gave us today. I think it was very well done. Additionally, once again, if you have any lingering questions regarding today's topic or any other topics, you can always send us an email. We are at webinars@odoo.com, and if you're a current Odoo customer, you can always get in touch with your account manager. That's what we recommend first. But if you would like to get a hold of Brandon, what is your email address one more time?
bjo@odoo.com, and I'll just jump to that. The last thing we have is barcodes. Specifically, I didn't really go into them because there's tons of videos already out there. But basically, the barcodes are specifically, as long as they read like a keyboard, you should be fine. And then, so my email is bjo@odoo.com.
Excellent. Let's see. Also, keep in mind that we are in the midst of our Odoo 12 tour. So if you would like to get more information for an opportunity to meet us in person, you can always go to our website. We are at odoo.com/events. And we have events all over the world, in this country, in the United States, Latin America, Europe, everywhere. You can get all of that information. Brandon, have you been to any Odoo events lately?
Recently I went to the Vegas event when it snowed, and then I'm going to San Antonio on July 8th.
Excellent. Well then, anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, if you have any questions or are curious to learn more about Odoo, send me an email, bjo@odoo.com. I'm happy to help. If you have specific questions on, how to use inventory management or anything along those lines, we do have a lot of information in our e-learning platform, as well as videos that are already previously created. So there's lots of stuff on YouTube. As I said, you don't have to purchase a implementation specialist. It just makes your life easier.
Exactly. Well, great. I think that's going to do it for us here. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so we can continue making these videos for you all. Let's see. I guess it's Wednesday, so enjoy the rest of the week, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Have a good one.